But I'm going to talk about something that affects almost all of the audience here, because majority is students. It's about a system, an ecosystem that we are in the middle of creating in India, which would help those of you who are wanting to go for PhD. And with all these keynote talks today, I'm sure you are more keen to do PhD than perhaps you were before. So here is a system that we are trying to build that would make it easier for you to get a PhD with a greater degree of satisfaction that you might otherwise have. In what ways is it going to help? That's what we'll talk about. Okay, so first of all, let me start with the program is called IT Research Academy, Information Technology Research Academy. It sounds like an organization because it is, but the reason I call it a program is because in government lingo, it is actually a program in a bigger umbrella. Okay, so it's a Government of India program which is housed in the Department of Information Technology, which in turn is part of Ministry of Communications and Information Technology. The government spells it OF also, I just didn't spell it OF, it's PF here. And the objective of the program is to improve the quality of institutions, academic institutions, in some specific areas, and the areas are anything having to do with information, communication, and electronics. But also applications, real-life applications of these subjects. So that really reaches out to almost everything, because I can also have a computer being used for anthropology. So there is really or horse breeding. There is no real end to it. So in that sense, it's quite relevant to today's needs, and therefore, hopefully, the people who do PhDs in some of these areas with many of these things in mind will be more relevant. Okay, so let me, since I said that the goal is to raise the quality of the institutions, what after all we mean by quality, and we have something very specific in mind, specific but not very small. The first thing is to promote research, and research is defined as the ability of a human being, of a student's ability or a person's ability to take a given problem and convert it into some familiar terms. So for example, if you look at the Professor Kannan's talk, if I have a problem that I observe with it having to do with polling or having to do with people's habits, if I can convert it into a data vector or a data matrix, and then I want my objectives converted into some classical method in linear algebra, or some non-existent method that I have to now invent to solve that problem. So that is the research part of it. So therefore, research requires familiarity with methods that exist, or methods that we could invent using what exists. So teaching is central to the quality of the academic institutions, which is the target, whose improvement is the target of this academy. So that here means state-of-the-art course content, which includes teach labs and teaching and so on. The third element of the vector is the entrepreneurship part, where you take the results to the field. And finally, something that I think is the most difficult to do in a real practical sense, in a formal sense, in an institutional sense, is how do you take these first three elements, especially the first element, and connect it to society? How do I develop this intuition and this sense of problem spotting, where I look at a difficulty going out. I'm stuck in a traffic jam, or I'm not able to reach my doctor, or the food products are having some problems and I don't know what's wrong with them, or can I test them, and things like this. So how do I take a social condition and spot problems in them so that I can unleash my experience in the first three, my capabilities in the first three onto the problem. So what we want to do is to quantitatively measure the quality of the institutions, which in turn is determined by the quality of the people in it, the faculty, the students, and so on, programs. So this is something that one would like to measure over time, and the institutions would hopefully grow in this quantitative way over time in a monotonic trajectory. Okay, and so this ITRA is intended to be an ecosystem which is going to develop and cater to this need, and by developing methods that we can start with some set and debug and hopefully come up with something that works over the first so many units of time, so many years. And the main idea being that you provide a giant switch, essentially, for the students or other learners, meaning that people who are not students anymore but are students for the purpose of a specific discipline, learning something new, and connect them with those who have the information. So it's a giant switch, dynamic switch that connects the customers with the suppliers, so to say, and facilitates that transaction by providing whatever resources, human resources, other resources. That's the objective. Let me just give you, without going into too much detail of this, but just to give you a sense of what's going on. We have ITRA with its 4 objectives. You have people who are available to help, whether they are from next door or from the next continent or from wherever, all over the world, wherever they are, who in turn increase their size, pool size, by getting more and more people involved. So this is the most critical side, because as you can tell, there are so many students here and so few faculty. In general, that has to be the case. It's not a. So we need to, this is a critical component. Which will be, of course, made possible by the interest of the experts in this program. Then we have a number of institutions. ITRA institutions should be as institutions, and at a very high level, ITRA would then take their whatever they are doing and start helping them with all kinds of needs they have, and what help is needed itself will be determined mutually, meaning that in consultation and inconsistent with what their objectives are, what kind of things they are doing. Are they in mechanical engineering, or are they developing some new methods in food sciences and so on? So hopefully then there is a system that gets developed which makes this flow mediated by the academy, but indeed among institutions. You have institutions which have people helping other institutions, and there are institutions that are taking the knowledge. Of course, it's not one or the other. Each institution might be helping out with contributing what is needed and also taking from the system. And ITRA is simply a facilitator in the background, not really being very prominent in the process, but catalyst. Okay, and of course there will be the normal tools of distant education, and one very important aspect that will be emphasized is that the learning will be collaborative. Teams, learning will be in teams by having them do research in teams. Okay, so let me go to the a more detailed objective then. So ITRA will be, through the quality measurement I mentioned, the real more distant and more high level goal is to then have the institutions improve their quality in in terms. These are equivalent, I guess, to what I said earlier. This description is, namely, you want to have students coming out, whether they are PhDs, masters, that they or bachelors, that they have better knowledge of the material. Do you know an SVD algorithm? They know how to take a problem and solve it using those methods that they learned in the math course and the data structures course. They know how to take the solutions to the field as products or services. And finally, they select their problems from the large pool that's available right outside the campus or inside the campus. They don't have to be bothered. They don't have to lose sleep over where to get the problems. Okay, so we want students to be nice problem spotters and then have the capability of solving them and have then the capability of taking them to the field. The way we are handling the scale that we have to, given the size of the country, is that we begin with a small number of members in this team where the experiment is happening, and then debug the mechanisms on them. But then once there is some confidence in how these transactions are to be conducted, we then have this growth process coming into the picture so that the size can scale can increase so as to address the size of the number of institutions. So let me just illustrate the scale with an expansion rate of doubling every 2 years. So what I mean by that is this. Suppose that you have an academic institution and you're trying to address the quality need of that institution. That institution then brings, after a certain time, let's say 2 years, 2 more institutions in it. In turn, after 2 years, you get 2 more institutions. So this way, what we are doing is we are increasing the number of institutions that are reached. However, the quality improvement process is taking place at very low level in a distributed sense. That means the quality improvement process is predominantly for this node, for this institution, is taking place in the sense that this mentor is helping this institution, and in turn, of course, this institution helps its own mentees. So the transactions are not required to be, but predominantly local, so that it's a parallel process. And the size, the scale of this whole process goes up with time, because 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. So now you can see Professor Kaushik's example coming into picture here, that you have a growth is proportional to the bottom layer, which is really proportional to the size itself. So you have an exponential growth taking place, and which is what we need to handle this exponential problem, meaning the large size problem. Okay. Now let me talk about the nature of activities that in whose reference the quality will be measured. So there are 2 major components, just like I said earlier, that we have IT, information communication and electronics, and the applications of IT. And those are, of course, correlated. And the choice of these areas is driven by many factors, including the opportunities that we have and the needs that there are of the community. Okay. Now let me tell you how. So these things now start to affect the students who are now perhaps thinking about the PhD, whether to do it, how to do it, what areas to do it in, all of this. And also, let me come back to that later. But the way we are building the pyramid in terms of the areas that we'll be focusing on within IT or in application domains is that is that the pyramid that we have is carved out into deep sub-pyramids. Each sub-pyramid is focused on one area. So for example, we have some focus area we have chosen, let's say IT and transportation. Now, within that area, we'll have a team identified, team of institution, one institution, another institution, more. These will grow with time. So that you have a team which it grows inside, the team grows while working on that focus area, while we also have another team, working on another sub-area of the same focus area, and so on. So basically what we are saying is that there is an ecosystem for that focus area which grows with time, and in parallel which addresses multiple sub-areas of that focus area. So as a result, you have a strength building up in that area. So for example, if you were to go for a PhD in IT and transportation, then you can expect to be a member of a community which is steadily growing, where there is also access to not just the area that you are working in sub-area, but also you have access to other experts, other people who are working on slightly related area, still within the same focus area. As I said, all the nodes in the pyramid are academic institutions. That doesn't mean, in fact, that not at all means that that's all there is to the team, to the pyramid. In fact, a very major, central, and critical role is to be played by non-academic institutions. Research labs, Microsoft Research Lab, for example. Government lab, CSIR lab, which has been doing studies in leather technology for 25 years. They have tremendous amount of expertise, and they are very much welcome and slotted in this system. They have a space, and that space is through the link which is called collaboration link. They are collaborators. They work with specific institutions or more than one specific institutions, and that goes for NGOs and so on, government organizations, depending upon what domain it is in. A very central place is occupied in this whole system by an advisory board which is within each team. For each team, there is an advisory board which consists of eminent experts from everywhere. You decide who is an expert for you, and you just get them involved. And the involvement of the advisory board members is not limited to the classical occasional communication, which happens a lot. But indeed, their involvement is as much as they wish, as you decide to. For example, they can be co-advisors of yours, so you can have a co-advisor sitting in Stanford or Utah or Oxford or Colombo or wherever you think there is a person who has a lot to offer to you, they can be involved in your team to the degree that you want. And there are mechanisms to make that happen, both financial mechanisms, administrative mechanisms, and all of that. Just a quick, so these are now, these are mentors as well as evaluation committees are formed through these advisory board members. So this is just a small little mention that anybody who wants to, and we are doing this, we already have a very large number of people involved. Anybody who wants to know more or be a mentor has to, in ways that I'll just mention in a minute, find mentees and get clubbed with the team so that it becomes operational. But more importantly, if there is an institution looking for help, then you just have to find a mentor, and together you can form a group that will be then ITRA supported. The basic unit of the academy, atomic unit, which cannot be broken by from the purpose or from the viewpoint of involving or getting involved in ITRA, is one mentor plus two mentees. So essentially what we have is, this is our atomic unit, a binary tree of two levels, a mentor and two mentees, which is the one that will grow. So when you form a team, when there is a team coming into ITRA, it will consist of, at the very least, three institutions, and it's called a pyramid. And any team is made up of a collection of pyramids, collaborating pyramids. And each cycle, let's say 2-year cycle, the pyramid will grow to become deeper by having 4 more nodes added at the bottom. So this is the evolution. So the main idea is that with time, the quality of the whole pyramid rises because everybody is learning from its parent and teaching its children. So the whole thing grows, and fresh mentees join at the bottom. So that the fuel is coming at the bottom and the balloon is going up in the air, kind of. So the pyramid gets taller and the exponentially increasing in size exponentially. Okay, so let me now relate this to the big pyramid. So each focus area pyramid is a sort of a subsection of the big ITRA pyramid, and together they form the ITRA pyramid, working in different focus areas. Okay, so let's now just talk about where we stand today. The whole program got approved last year, about 1 year ago, maybe 14 months ago, but it did not become operational until June for various bureaucratic reasons, including my own availability. So, and it's been funded at 150 crores for the as seed money, and this is meant to fund these things, that various focus areas that I mentioned, and to debug the mechanisms and see what works, what doesn't work, so that it can be enlarged to a larger scale. So far, there are 2 focus areas that have been launched. One is IT area, not IT and X area, which is mobile computing, networking, and applications. And again, remember I mentioned that this is driven by the opportunities and priorities. So some combination of those. And the second area is IT in X, which is X is water. So it's IT in water. And this process is on. The RFPs are being worked on. In fact, today is the deadline for the first stage proposals for the water area. Just a side note that these nodes are, when I say they are institutions, they are not institutions entirely. They refer to a focus group, the mobile group or a water group inside an institution. So these are actually groups. As a result, one institution may appear in multiple focus areas and therefore multiple times in the pyramid. So, it's same, one group, blue group and the yellow group are from the same institution, therefore there is interleaving of these. Okay, small thing, not very serious. Okay, just to give you a sense of the size, the hope is that after this cycle is over, that in the mobile area, there will be 6 pyramids functional. Now, that is not a rigid number, but that's approximately the scale at which this thing is being planned. It can change. So you can think of about 18 institutions working in mobile computing, which survived the selection process and which have all those properties that I mentioned, namely expert involvement, monotonic growth in this diverse set of 4, this vector of 4 quality measures. Similar numbers are valid for water. Okay. Now let me just summarize what kind of. So the ITRA is not a body that says, here is the money, go and take it, and I'll see you next year. So it's not counting on things happening by themselves. Not that they can't happen, because institutions are coming together, but ITR is intending to be involved in the institutional dynamics throughout, just like another institution. Namely, it would do things like even help with formation of teams, connecting the teams with experts, advisory board. In fact, that's already happened quite to a large extent, and more people are coming, helping with all of these things, helping with faculty, helping with providing chaired professorships, extra salaries. There are salaries available, salary increments of up to 50% of normal salary is possible for the people who are selected. Startup grants, visits to advisory board members. So the students can, for example, go to UC Irvine or UCLA, wherever the advisor is, they can be funded to go there. The advisors can co-advise. So the students, you can have a co-advisor in Bangalore and a co-advisor in Washington, D.C., depending on where the right people are. Or for that matter, an advisor in Bangalore, MSRI. It's just where the right people are. Support explicit funding of companies. So if you decide that you want to take your idea and start another Google, then there is money for it. Of course, the probability of what happens is also understood, that these are not things that always happen, but the money is available for trying. Student awards, special awards for you to, if you're doing very well in PhD, you will be recognized with Jagdish Chandra Bose Award in Calcutta Spirit, because you are budding Jagdish Chandra Bose. You will have your faculty who you are being advised by from abroad, for example, will come and visit you on a regular basis. They will be given honorarium for it, travel and all of this. So it will be made possible, made easy. For mentors, there are lots of, like I just mentioned, the mentors, there are lots of reasons to do it. First of all, it's voluntary. The time spent is, I shouldn't say one, the time is really hard to predict, but they can be, they will be involved because they have, this is a slide more for the mentors than for students. They'll be able to mentor young faculty, promising new students, helping with finding faculty, helping organize events at conferences and so on. Other than short visits, and helping with the policy, developing the ecosystem. Anyway, so the ITRA will be trying to maximize the advantage to both sides, the mentors and the students and the institutions, by providing funding and for travel, for the, like I said earlier, both ways, and so on. So money and the organizational support. There is honorarium involved. I have said many of these things. So just a quick thing for those of us who are here as faculty members or a research lab scientists, if they are interested in becoming a mentor, then the thing to do is to identify the area in which ITRA has already expressed interest in terms of supporting RFP, issued RFP, or come and help form an RFP. Say this is an important area, let's get together and issue an RFP. So basically what happens is that when an area of interest is spotted, then there is a meeting conducted in which these things are sorted out and you develop an RFP. The mentor could be on the advisory board, collaborate more informally if that's the best they can do. For the students, finally, you really will have very many advantages in going for PhD, because you will be able to work with renowned faculty, be co-advised by them, access to other experts, not the faculty. A very important thing, although not perhaps something that ought to be the main consideration for students, is that the PhD scholarship is probably going to be between 30 to 40K per month. So it is not exactly what you will get at an IT company, but it's better than what we get now. And I already said startup companies. And by going to PhD, I don't have to repeat, what we were told this morning is that one gets to be readier, more ready for the world, because we are more ready to adapt to change than we are otherwise. So to summarize then, ITRA is something that it's hoped would be of big help to the PhD students in terms of they should, in the sense that you should be able to derive more from your PhD by having access to all these facilities. And I hope that, this will help you decide more in favor of going for PhD than you would do otherwise. Thank you.